Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Get ready for heart-pounding action, thrilling adventures with fresh and unique elements, a touch of romance, and a dash of harem. Everything you're craving is right here. We're excited to have you join us on this journey. So come along to Novel Love Hearing, we're waiting for you. As a small favor, please consider sharing Novel Love Hearing with your friends, family, in YouTube comments, on Discord, Reddit, or anywhere else you hang out online. Happy listening, and enjoy the ride. Standing on the cavern floor, Uncle Lee was still in a daze, staring at the excited young man beside him and Lord Mang, who stood leaning on his cane. This was the first time he'd been this close to Lord Mang. He even felt his breathing quicken. And there, walking toward them, was train conductor Zhu, whom he rarely had the chance to be near. Laju. Chen Ming waved at Laju as he approached, then casually draped an arm over Uncle Lee's shoulders. The kid just came to me and said his Uncle Lee used to be an executive at a big company, even worked as a financial director. He's got strong management skills and a good head for numbers. Your statistical work must be giving you a headache. Here, take him. Let him handle it for a few days. If it works out, give him level 3 talent treatment. Oh, and this kid? He'll assist Uncle Lee. Same treatment. At that moment, Uncle Lee finally snapped out of his daze. Bowing slightly, his voice trembling, he said, Lord Mang, you can just call me Zhao Li. Chen Meng didn't say anything, just patted Uncle Lee's shoulder before turning and heading back to the train's control room. No one stopped him this time. After Lord Meng left, La gave the two men holding pickaxes a strange look. You've got some guts, wandering around during mining hours and even stopping Lord Meng. Pretty bold. But we do need you two right now. Follow me. My head's about to explode from all the statistical work. If you do well, you'll both get level 3 talent treatment. You move into the high talent carriage and get 2 stellar coupons every day. Come on. Perfect? In the 7th Guardian Sleeper carriage, Lao looked at the charts and statistical methods Uncle Lee had handed over, grinning with satisfaction. With this cross-referencing method, the error rate will drop significantly. It's a lot of work, but it'll be worth it. You'll have to keep at it. You'll stay in the 6th male high talent carriage. It's a sleeper carriage, just like mine. No more mining for you. Just focus on this task. Right now, only Li Shiji lives in that carriage. In the 5th female high talent carriage, there's only Ji Chaku. Don't look where you shouldn't, don't eavesdrop, and don't wander around. That's about it. You've got skills. Why have you been hiding your talent and just mining? Did the pre-apocalypse life wear you out, and now you just want to relax and retire early? Lao teased before walking out of the carriage. Alright, go on. I've got work to do. In the 6th male high talent carriage. This is amazing. The young man who'd been following Uncle Lee immediately threw himself onto the bed as soon as he entered the carriage. He pressed the pillow to his face, inhaling deeply, and muttered in ecstasy. It's been so long since I've been able to stretch out like this to sleep. And it's so soft. A dedicated pillow, mattress, and blanket. So much space. This is heaven. Uncle Lee, why don't you look happy? Standing in the carriage aisle, looking out at the mining residence, Uncle Lee was silent for a long time before speaking in a hoarse voice. Even though the result is exactly what I wanted, the path to get here wasn't what I expected. Is this right? Isn't it? The young man stretched lazily, lying comfortably on the soft pillow, a look of contentment on his face. This isn't a school exam where the teacher grades you on your process. As long as the answer's right. Who cares how you got there? Chapter 111, 12 Scrolls of Military Documents, each scroll bears my name. However, Uncle Lee turned to look at the young man rolling around on the bed behind him. His lips slightly parted but no words came out. He couldn't find a way to refute. After a long while, he muttered in a daze. But how dare you intercept Lord Mang? Because I thought that compiling daily data for so many people must be an extremely troublesome task. Uncle Lee, you happen to be proficient in this, and the train is just short of such a person. Of course, I had to recommend myself. You. What about me? This process isn't right. Success can't be this simple. Uncle Lee felt as if his values were being shattered, finding it hard to accept for a moment. If you had the ability to recommend yourself, why were you only earning a few thousand a month before? He had always believed. Talent is like the shit in your belly, only when a tip peeks out from behind can others see that you have talent. Otherwise, even if your belly is full of shit, no one can tell. So his approach had always been to showcase his talent. But this young man had told him a more straightforward and crude method. Throw it in someone else's face. Me? The young man lying on the bed spoke somewhat irritably. Uncle Lee, I'm just a young man from a no-name town with no skills. What can I recommend myself for? And I just recommended you, not me. It's you who have the skills, not me. But Well, in the end, it was my plan that succeeded, so I have some credit. Let me make it clear first, I don't understand any of this, so you'll need to be patient when you start teaching me. Alright. After a long while, Uncle Lee nodded heavily, took a deep breath, and turned to look out the window, his eyes filled with pride. Even his back straightened a bit. No matter what. The plan had finally succeeded, and he had finally become a middle manager of the stellar train. Now was his time to shine. At this moment, the door of Carriage 6 for high-level talents was pushed open, and Lee Shiji walked in holding 2 steaming Regimo. Seeing Uncle Lee and the young man, he was momentarily stunned, then suddenly laughed. Looks like your plan succeeded? Huh? Uncle Lee's body froze in place, his eyes filled with confusion as he looked at Lee Shiji. What huh? I was lying behind you eating last time when you were discussing how to suppress the slave rebellion. From what I gathered, you've been planning this for a long time, but kept failing. I didn't expect your plan to suddenly succeed now. Well done. Why were you lying down eating? Digging ore all day makes my back ache. Can't a man eat lying down? The young man sitting next to Uncle Lee stood up, his eyes filled with pride as he smiled. Uncle Lee and I are responsible for the daily data compilation and verification of the residents' iron ore and stellar coupons. We're both treated as level 3 high-level talents. That's a good job. Lee Shiji sighed deeply, his eyes filled with envy. This job can be done continuously. Unlike me, after finishing the maze, I don't know what to do next. Lord Meng hasn't given me any new tasks either, making me feel a bit guilty even eating steamed buns now. Before you came, this carriage was just me, quite lonely. Now I finally have someone to chat with. Want some GMO? I just heated them. Well. Uncle Lee hesitated for a moment before looking toward carriage 5 behind Lee Shiji and asking, you came from carriage 5? Train conductor Zhu just told me Jichaku is in carriage 5 and not to enter it casually. Oh, that. Lee Shiji waved his hand. Right now, only Jichaku lives in carriage 5. Zhu set up a bed curtain for her. Passing by is no big deal, just don't casually lift the curtain and crawl in. I just heated 2 Regimo, here you go. Consider it a welcome treat. I'll heat a few more later. Hey, this is much better than bread slices. I've been eating a dozen a day these days, so satisfying. Oh right. It's been a while since you had a smoke, huh? Lee Shiji smiled, pulling out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket and tossing it to the 2. Lord Meng just rewarded me with 100 stellar coupons. I bought 2 packs of cigarettes for 4 stellar coupons. Here's a pack for you to smoke. Aren't you saving up to buy a refrigerator? Uncle Lee took the pack of cigarettes with both hands and handed it to the young man beside him. Many people are planning to save the stellar coupons they earn to buy a refrigerator. That's not as comfortable as living in this carriage. The store inside has a lot of good stuff. Lee Shiji suddenly thought of something, stood up, and walked over to the 2. Train conductor Zhu put the store in the refrigerator. That refrigerator is in carriage 11. I'll take you to see it. I'll pay for whatever you buy. We're all treated as level 3 high-level talents, earning 2 stellar coupons a day. It's enough. Let's go, come with me to see. It's a good time now since everyone's working, the store is less crowded, and we can take our time looking. Inside the stellar train. Sitting at the control panel, Chen Ming was looking at the robot in front of him and a loose iron box. Yes. That drone had dropped a box, and when the 4 sides opened, this robot crawled out. He took the box with him when he left. Though so far, he hadn't found anything special about it. It's not a special item. And the box can't be reassembled, it's just loose. But since it's something from an S-rank job change quest, he decided to collect it and stuff it in the refrigerator. There's a level 10 refrigerator in his train room. It's chilling some cola. And other miscellaneous things he's collected, which might come in handy someday. As for this robot. Special item, life robot. Item effect, can serve as the body of a train auxiliary eye and perform light physical tasks. The robot's exterior is smooth blue steel, painted, with no exposed wires or armor. There are no interfaces for heavy weaponry, it's just a life robot with minimal combat capabilities. It can be an assistant. Can you enter? Yes. The train soon echoed with the mechanical electronic voice of the eye. Then, a wire extended from the control panel screen towards the robot. Soon, the robot stood up, facing Chen Meng. Chen Meng frowned slightly, tilting his head to look at the screen beside him. Can you still control those accessories now? Yes. The robot's speaker emitted a slightly muffled mechanical electronic voice. I'm a level 10 eye, with higher computational power and intelligence. The robot only occupies a part of my consciousness. Most of my consciousness remains in the train auxiliary eye, and my powerful computational power allows me to multitask. Currently, activating all train accessories would only consume 37% of my total computational power. If I could eat, I could even leisurely crack a few melon seeds. Chen Meng looked at the robot in front of him, pausing for a moment. I'll give you a name. Okay. Let's call you Zhai. Okay, Master. You can command Zhai anytime. This robot is just a side dish in this harvest, not even a snack. The real appetizers are the special item and 2 blueprints he got from that level 4 train. All special items have no grade or level, most are small auxiliary items for individual use. Like the special item in his hand. Special item, salted fish hairpin. Item effect, while wearing this hairpin, you can breathe underwater for 10 minutes. It looks like a salted fish hairpin, clipped onto the head. He tried it on, looked in the mirror, and immediately took it off, placing it in a drawer. Wearing it makes one look a bit silly. An item that might be useful at certain times. Then he looked at the 2 blueprints. The first blueprint is a green-grade accessory nitrogen tail jet, and the second is a yellow-grade accessory blueprint bunny cloud. Well, Chen Meng looked at the second yellow-grade vehicle accessory blueprint, a flash of surprise in his eyes. This time, he really hit the jackpot. Last time he went to the Kunlun Mountains, a train left an extremely deep impression on him. That train had cloud wheels and could fly in the air. He was still a level 2 train then, and that scene left him in awe. He had wondered when his stellar train could also fly in the sky. He didn't expect it to be so soon. Bunny Cloud is a special type of wheel, cloud-shaped, allowing the train to fly in the sky. However, it's temporarily unusable. Only when the train's maximum speed reaches 650 km per hour can a train equipped with Bunny Cloud wheels fly in the sky. Even if he upgrades Bunny Cloud to level 10 now, he still can't reach that speed limit. Normally, level 4 or 5 trains, even level 6 trains, can't reach that base speed limit. To achieve that speed, some speed-enhancing accessories are needed, like the green-grade accessory nitrogen tail jet, which increases train speed. Presumably, this level 4 train also started collecting speed-enhancing accessories after obtaining the Bunny Cloud blueprint, preparing to reach that speed limit and fly the train in the air. Unfortunately, it was cut short halfway, poor kid. After organizing all the loot from this train, he looked at the resource units on the train panel. 430,000 units of iron ore, 750,000 units of copper ore, 224,000 units of wood, 120,000 units of spider silk, 180,000 units of crimson heartstone, 1,158 units of corpse meat. He glanced at the conditions for upgrading to level 4 train. Upgrade conditions: need to have 18 carriages, 4 essential vehicle accessories fully crafted, consume 10,000 units of level 2 iron ore, and the total level of all accessories in the train must exceed 80. After crafting 3 ordinary carriages, he finally met the 18 carriage requirement. Thus, all conditions for upgrading to level 4 train were met. As for the condition that's quite challenging for other trains, total accessory levels exceeding 80, for him. When he was a level 2 train, he already surpassed that number. As for now, after consuming 100,000 units of iron ore, the next moment, a panel appeared before him. Your train has upgraded to level 4. More craftable accessories will be unlocked, and you have successfully transitioned to a mechanical train with S-rank potential. On the train panel, a new section called Reputation Points appeared. His current reputation points are 30. The detailed record shows that the regional announcement of Iron Ridge Wasteland increased his reputation points by 10, and the regional announcement of Shapeplane increased it by another 20, totaling 30 reputation points. And at the moment of successful upgrade, the train radio finally fully joined the Shapeplane. From this moment on, he could no longer return to the Iron Ridge Wasteland, and the abandoned goblin train at the bottom of the Doomsday Abyss would forever remain there. Until one day, the goblin train, covered in dust and spiderwebs, long forgotten, suddenly welcomes its owner. This is Doba's train. Upon learning that this goblin train was crafted by Doba alone, groping in absolute darkness to find a pickaxe and then iron ore, bit by bit, spending who knows how much time, he couldn't bear to feed this abandoned goblin train to the geothermal furnace. It wouldn't give him much iron ore. Better to leave it there. Perhaps one day, he will return there and tell Doba. Now you are the Goblin King. He doesn't know if he can achieve such a monumental task as helping Doba rebuild the goblin civilization, but Doba's sincere, admiring, and fervent gaze made him somewhat unable to meet it directly. If, one day in the future, he can truly accomplish this, then this abandoned goblin train, lying dormant at the bottom of the Doomsday Abyss, will silently record everything like a cosmic historian. At least leave a memento. Suddenly, the train radio emitted a series of beeps. Many people were chatting in the radio, and the chat room's top right corner showed a total of 289 trains in this chat room. This number is about the same as in the Iron Ridge Wasteland. Wait, it should be much less than the Iron Ridge Wasteland, Since only level 2 trains can craft a train radio, and there are still many level 1 trains in the Iron Ridge Wasteland, as well as some level 2 trains that haven't crafted a train radio. No way. Chen Meng looked at the chat records in the chat room, his mouth twitching slightly. Why are there 12 scrolls of military documents, each scroll bearing my name again? He had thought that the train radio in the shape lane would be discussing something else, but it turns out they're still talking about him, no different from the train radio in the Iron Ridge Wasteland. Everyone in the chat room is discussing the stellar train that completed the S-rank job change quest. The regional announcement of Shaplane leaked his train's name, and now everyone knows that a train called the Stellar successfully completed this S-rank job change quest. Chapter 112, Supermodel Effect Quantity Leaderboard. At that moment, a single comment shattered the discussion atmosphere in the train radio. Broken defense train, quick, check the leaderboard. The Stellar train has successfully upgraded to a level 4 train and officially entered the green zone. Holy shit, he's topped the chart. 10 steps 1 kill train, what chart? Even if he completed an S-rank job change quest, that just means he has high potential. How could he directly top the chart? Cosmos train, that guy's definitely mistaken, but the Stellar train is indeed outrageous. A score of 6,524? That's no joke. Normally, a train just upgraded to level 4 wouldn't have that kind of score. Even many level 5 trains don't have that high a score. Only level 1 train, a score of 6,524 is genuinely insane. He's already ranked 34th on the Shaplane Power Value Regional Leaderboard. This guy just upgraded to level 4. Did he stuff all the survivors from the White Zone into his train? How can he even sustain that? If he can't find ore in 2 days, all the slaves will starve to death. Broken defense train, you're looking at the wrong leaderboard. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the Supermodel Effect Quantity Leaderboard. He's topped that one. Go check it out. Cosmos train, just checked. He's really number 1. My only thought is, can I add a question mark? 10 steps 1 kill train? Only level 1 train? Ah. Chen Ming helplessly looked at the information flooding the train radio. He just wanted to quietly develop his train. He really didn't need everyone constantly watching him. His original score was 5,412. After upgrading to level 4, his train's base score became 1,000. He also obtained a new red-tier vehicle component, the ground burst missile, and upgraded some miscellaneous components in the geothermal furnace. He also picked up a new batch of survivors. Then, his train's score jumped to 6,542. That does seem a bit high. He glanced at the Shaplane Regional Leaderboard, where the Stellar train was ranked 34th, sandwiched between a bunch of level 5 trains. The highest-ranked level 4 train had a score of 4,500, while most other level 4 trains were around 3,800. And in the Iron Ridge Wasteland, there was only one leaderboard, the Regional Power Value Leaderboard. But in the Shaplane, there were several leaderboards, such as Supermodel Effect Quantity Leaderboard First Place, Stellar Train, S-Rank Potential Level 4 Mechanical Train, 57 Supermodel Effects Second Place, Wife Hunter Train, S-Rank Potential Level 6 Flesh Train, 28 Supermodel Effects Third Place, Kill a Bloody Path Train, A-Rank Potential Level 6 Flesh Train, 26 Supermodel Effects 4th Place, World Weary Train, A-Rank Potential Level 5 Mechanical Train, 24 Supermodel Effects. This was the first time Chen Meng had seen this leaderboard. If it was solely based on the number of supermodel effects, then yes, no one could compete with him. After all, he effectively had an infinite supply of Murphy stones. How could anyone challenge that? There was no contest. And the most important thing, he had discovered a few days ago that supermodel effects marked as none were still counted in the score and the total number of supermodel effects. At this moment, a data nerd had already emerged in the train radio. Broken defense train, let me break it down for you. Yellow tier components can be upgraded to level 5 at most. A level 3 train has 7 craftable yellow tier components, a level 4 train has 3, and level 5 and 6 trains each have 2. Only purple tier components can be upgraded to level 10, and even level 6 trains don't have craftable purple tier components. In other words, a normal level 6 train, if it crafts all its yellow tier components, can obtain a total of 14 supermodel effects. If you manage to get a few yellow tier blueprints or some Murphy stones, you can have even more supermodel effects. For example, the previous top-ranked Wife Hunter train has a whopping 28 supermodel effects. But the Stellar train is only a level 4 train, and it just upgraded to level 4. It hasn't even had time to craft its level 4 components, meaning it can only craft 7 yellow tier components at most, resulting in a maximum of 7 supermodel effects. As everyone knows, Murphy Stones can break level restrictions, and the most cost-effective way to use Murphy Stones for supermodel effects is to apply them to green-tier components. 2 Murphy Stones can give you 1 supermodel effect. And the Stellar Train has a staggering 57 supermodel effects, which is 50 above the normal value. That means he either has an extra 50 yellow-tier component blueprints or has consumed 100 Murphy Stones. You decide which one sounds more realistic. Cosmos Drain? Can I say both conclusions sound equally unrealistic? Are yellow-tier component blueprints and Murphy Stones as common as cabbages? Since when did the numbers get so high? Broken Defense Train, maybe he went through a lot of fortuitous encounter maps and cleared them all. Azure Dragon Train, let me chime in. There are no fortuitous encounter maps in the White Zone. They're really sensitive to data. Chen Meng let out a long, helpless sigh. These people were incredibly serious about digging up information about others' trains. Unfortunately, their logical deductions were correct, but the answers were all wrong. 100 Murphy Stones? That was just insulting. If resources weren't a limitation, he could give you 9,999 supermodel effects in minutes. However, his gaze fell on the world-weary train, ranked 4th on the supermodel effect quantity leaderboard. It was a knee rank potential level 5 mechanical train. Among the top 10 on this leaderboard, only 2 were mechanical trains. One was him, and the other was the world-weary train. The other 8 were all flesh trains. After all, flesh trains, which constantly hunt monsters, have a higher chance of dropping Murphy Stones compared to others. It's not like you can mine ore and suddenly find a Murphy Stone. What really interested him about the world-weary train wasn't just that it was one of the 2 mechanical trains in the top 10. It was because it was a knee rank potential. He remembered the A-rank difficulty job change quest for mechanical trains very clearly. It required training the eye to develop human emotions and then falling in love with it. This guy was a true hardcore player. He had to admire someone willing to put their life in someone else's hands. What if they break up one day? If the eye presses the immediate self-destruct button, it'll be hilarious. After completing this job change quest, the eye gains full control over the train, equivalent to the train conductor's authority. But the effort wasn't without reward. Being able to rank above a bunch of level 6 trains as a level 5 train showed that the rewards were quite substantial. Mechanical trains and flesh trains were just different types of trains. The only difference was that mechanical trains were more sci-fi, while flesh trains looked more terrifying, even more monstrous than some monsters. Flesh trains don't need to mine ore or rely on slaves. Upgrading the train and its components requires monster flesh. As long as you keep killing monsters, you can keep upgrading. The train can function normally with just one person, as long as you don't mind the loneliness. Mechanical trains can't do that. A single train conductor can't operate it alone, you need a whole team. In terms of mortality rates, mechanical trains are far lower than flesh trains. Mechanical trains can avoid danger, just stay away from the scary monsters. But flesh trains can't avoid it. If you avoid it this time, will you avoid it next time? If you keep avoiding it, how will your train ever upgrade? Because of this, all flesh trains in the shape lane only stop there during rest periods. The rest of the time, they're charging through the monster-infested regions of the Kunlun Mountains. The more bosses you kill, the more Murphy Stones and yellow-tier component blueprints you'll drop, naturally ranking higher on the supermodel effect leaderboard. Mechanical trains and flesh trains actually get along quite well. After all, flesh trains don't need ore or slaves, so there's basically no conflict of interest with mechanical trains, except for the occasional muttered insults about flesh trains being a bunch of lunatics. After watching the train radio for a while, Chen Ming turned his attention away. He didn't pay too much attention and had no intention of joining the conversation. His current goal was to quietly develop, to survive, and to live a little better. And at that moment, someone privately messaged him. Azure Dragon Train, hello, I'm the one who yelled Mom, I can't tell. In your train today. I went to an underwater labyrinth fortuitous encounter and chose an S-rank difficulty maze task. Fortunately, I ended up in your train. Of course, the task failed. But that's not important. I found a new fortuitous encounter. Would you be interested in exploring it with me? Chen Meng's expression turned slightly strange as he looked at the private message. He now realized that the consciousness in that robot was actually a real person's consciousness. This guy had taken on an S-rank difficulty maze task from somewhere and ended up in his train? What's a fortuitous encounter? How to explain it? They're hidden maps that often have tasks. Clearing them gives you a lot of rewards. I've actually known about this fortuitous encounter for over a month, but I never found the right person to team up with. You're the best candidate. How so? That day, Was it you driving the train on the nearly 90-degree cliff face in the Kunlun Mountains? Was that you flying in the air? Yes, it was me. That fortuitous encounter map is called the Tower of Heaven. Only your train can go up there. No one else can. But you can fly, can't you? I can only fly up to 3,000 meters. That map is at 5,000 meters. You can tow my train up there. I'll provide the coordinates, and you provide the means. If it's a cooperative task inside, we'll split the rewards 50-50. If it's individual tasks, we'll each rely on our own skills. On the shape lane. The bald man sitting in the Azure Dragon train's control room sighed with emotion. He really hadn't expected it to be that guy. When he heard that the stellar train had completed an S-rank job change quest and entered the shape lane, he knew it was the same train. If it were in different regions, it might not be the same person. But in these neighboring regions, how could it not be the same guy? That guy. He had secretly calculated that the spider leg component needed to be upgraded to at least level 13 to traverse cliff faces like that. Where on earth did he get so many Murphy stones? And he knew more than those people in the train radio. This guy had upgraded at least 100 refrigerators to level 5 or 10. The number of Murphy stones he'd consumed far exceeded what that data nerd had guessed. Right. He suddenly slapped his forehead. The other guy must be on high alert right now, especially since his S-rank task failed because of the stellar train. With so many Murphy stones in hand, he must suspect that he's planning something. But he really didn't have any such intentions. His only joy was exploring fortuitous encounters and unlocking hidden maps. The rewards were one thing, but more importantly, it gave him a rare sense of happiness in this god-forsaken world. He'd found the Tower of Heaven fortuitous encounter map a long time ago but had never been able to reach it. Now that he'd finally caught the stellar train, he didn't want to miss the chance to see what was up there. Just as he was about to say something more to dispel the other guy's suspicions, he quickly received a reply. Stellar train, sure, but it'll have to be in half a month. Huh. Now it was his turn to be stunned. He agreed just like that. He was a level 5 train. Wasn't this guy afraid? Either he was incredibly bold or just plain stupid. Then he remembered the half hour of torment in the other guy's train and the first impression he'd formed of this train conductor he'd never met. The guy really wasn't afraid of him. He was just tough. Now, it seemed like he was the one who should be worried about being double-crossed. After replying and settling on a time, Chen Meng stopped paying attention to the train radio. He was indeed curious about this fortuitous encounter map. He'd never seen one in the White Zone. He was also curious about the special places in the Iron Ridge Wasteland, like the Doomsday Abyss, but that seemed more like a unique location rather than a fortuitous encounter map. But he wasn't going now. His train had just upgraded to level 4, and there were many things he hadn't crafted yet. His armor was already level 6. By the time he got the ground burst missile to level 6, he wanted to see who would dare mess with him. He was even eager to test the power of the ground burst missile. Of course, before that, he needed to upgrade the few craftable components from level 3 to level 10. Half a month should be enough to build a half-maxed level 4 train. Then he could go out and explore. With so much copper ore piled up in the stellar train, he needed to find an opportunity to test its firepower and see how it performed. Chapter 113, The patient has a hangnail on the second finger of their right hand. Central air conditioning, permanent shock absorption, medical bay. These 3 yellow-grade vehicle components were all optional parts for a level 3 train, and he had already crafted them all back in the Iron Ridge Wasteland. However, he hadn't upgraded them at the time due to a lack of iron ore. Upgrading yellow-grade vehicle components from level 1 to level 10 generally required 45,000 units of iron ore, which was significantly more expensive than white-grade components. White-grade components often only needed 4,400 units of iron ore to upgrade from level 1 to level 10. After consuming 45,000 units of iron ore, the yellow-grade component's central air conditioning was quickly upgraded to level 10 and gained 2 supermodel effects! Central air conditioning level 5 supermodel effect, reduces energy consumption by half. Central air conditioning level 10 supermodel effect, when operating the fresh air system, if toxic gases or extremely poor air quality are detected outside, it will immediately stop air intake. This effect requires the oxygen generator to be upgraded to level 10 and obtain its corresponding supermodel effect, as well as fully upgrading the train auxiliary eye. The central air conditioning comes with a fresh air system that can effectively improve the air quality inside the train. Upgrading had no additional effects. It basically functioned within the normal temperature range of a standard air conditioner, unable to directly heat up to over 100 degrees or cool down to negative 200 degrees Celsius. However, in extremely cold or hot environments, it could still maintain a normal temperature range inside the train. The only downside was that energy consumption would increase significantly. This was where the level 5 supermodel effect came into play, which was a decent universal effect. The level 10 supermodel effect only came into play in specific environments and was mostly unused. But when it was needed, it played a critical role. The level 10 supermodel effect of the oxygen generator was to analyze the surrounding air quality in real time and synchronize the report to the train auxiliary eye. The weather was getting colder. Winter was approaching, and by then, trains that hadn't been upgraded to level 3 and couldn't craft the central air conditioning component would likely struggle, and many people might freeze to death. The train conductor naturally had ways to stay warm, as the highest treatment on a train was always prioritized for the conductor. However, many slaves would likely freeze to death, and even if they didn't, frostbite would significantly reduce their work efficiency. Residents on his train didn't have to worry about this. Inside the train, there was air conditioning, and outside, they had clothes with a temperature lock effect. This effect was a supermodel effect obtained by upgrading the clothing customization production line to level 5. Most people couldn't upgrade this component to level 5, as even if they had Murphy stones, they wouldn't want to spend them on this component. Moreover, only level 4 trains or higher had a chance to obtain Murphy stones, as they didn't appear in lower level areas. Additionally, residents on his train also had bread slices and mineral water, which had supermodel effects that, when consumed long-term, could enhance physical fitness and reduce the likelihood of falling ill. It could be said, the living conditions of the residents on his train were almost superior to those on all other trains in the Iron Ridge Wasteland and Shea Plain. At least, under the daily high-pressure workload, no resident had died from exhaustion or serious illness so far, which was enough to prove that the train was doing an excellent job in this regard. In the apocalypse, what more could one ask for with such an environment? Chenming then turned his attention to the yellow-grade component permanent shock absorption. The effect of this component was to significantly reduce the impact force when the train was subjected to a violent collision, thereby protecting the life forms inside the train. A very useful component. At least when he was driving deep underground and collided with a level 4 train, he didn't feel much impact. At the time, the permanent shock absorption was only level 1. If he hadn't had this component, colliding with another train at such a high speed would have been unbearable. After consuming 45,000 units of iron ore, he upgraded this component to level 10. With each upgrade, the effect of reducing impact force was enhanced. After reaching level 10, the impact force from a violent collision was much smaller, and it gained 2 supermodel effects. Permanent shock absorption level 5 supermodel effect, none. Permanent shock absorption level 10 supermodel effect, none. Both supermodel effects were none, but he still upgraded it to level 10, not for the supermodel effects, but for the upgrade effects themselves. He then spent another 45,000 units of iron ore to upgrade the medical bay to level 10. Although he already had a level 10 simple first aid kit, which could treat external injuries and even regenerate severed limbs, he wanted to see if the yellow grade component would have stronger effects after being upgraded to level 10. Upgrading had no additional effects. It was the same as before. But the 2 supermodel effects it gained could almost be described as insane. Medical bay level 5 supermodel effect, can regenerate severed limbs. Medical bay level 10 supermodel effect, humans have never truly had any incurable diseases. It can treat any disease, including so-called cancer. Treating different diseases requires consuming different units of iron ore. The more severe the illness, the more resources are needed. Additionally, replacing any mechanical organs in the medical bay will cause no discomfort. The level 5 supermodel effect overlapped with the level 10 supermodel effect of the simple first aid kit. However, the simple first aid kit was a one-time use, while this one could be used permanently. Moreover, using the simple first aid kit to suture a severed limb required a professional. It didn't have to be a professional surgeon, but if the suturing went wrong, they could just take it off and try again. Suturing dozens of times would eventually get it right. The only downside was that the whole process was quite painful. The likelihood of dying from the pain was low. But passing out from the pain was still possible. With the medical bay, there was no need to worry about this. For limb regeneration, all you had to do was place the severed limb and the patient into the medical bay, close the lid, and after a minute, open it to find the limb fully regenerated. The entire process was completely painless and incredibly easy. Of course, for the same limb regeneration, the medical bay consumed more resources than the simple first aid kit. The level 10 supermodel effect of the medical bay, if placed in peacetime, would be a technological product that would shock all of humanity. At least in the world before the apocalypse, nearly 90% of diseases were untreatable, including common colds. New diseases were still being discovered occasionally. It was like a game that occasionally produced bugs. With nearly 10 billion people, it was completely understandable and normal for some strange things to pop up now and then. Chen Ming walked to carriage 2 and placed the medical bay inside a refrigerator in this carriage. After upgrading the refrigerator to level 10, it significantly increased the space utilization of each carriage. After all, adding a new carriage wasn't a simple task, as the armor for the carriage had to be installed, and armor wasn't cheap. He stood there, looking at the medical bay, which was similar to the combat training virtual space in appearance but more technologically advanced. It was entirely white, and he remained silent, lost in thought. He didn't seem to have any physical issues or diseases. But after some consideration, he still took off his clothes and lay inside. As he lay in the bay, the lid quickly rose from both sides and slowly closed. At the same time, a white, viscous liquid began to overflow from the bottom of the medical bay, soon enveloping his entire body. A small screen appeared on the inside of the lid. Detected the following issues with the body: lung integrity 78%, heart integrity 89%, limb integrity 99%, genital integrity 87%, liver integrity. To target a specific organ for repair, please tap the corresponding organ on the screen, and the repair cost will be displayed. If repairing all, it will consume 43,000 units of iron ore. So expensive? Chen Ming's first thought was that the price was absurd. He hadn't been injured, wasn't sick, and didn't even have a cold. He was just getting a full-body checkup, and after the checkup, he was told he needed to consume 43,000 units of iron ore? This felt strangely familiar. How much iron ore would it cost to treat a terminal illness? And in the world before the apocalypse, when he went to the hospital for a checkup, the data he received included specific disease names, with a string of data that seemed extremely professional. This medical bay simply rated each organ's integrity? It sounded strange, as if it were repairing train components. He could accept that other organs weren't at 100% integrity, but why were his limbs at 99%? My limbs are fine. I have no injuries. He voiced his confusion. The screen quickly displayed another line of text. The patient has a hangnail on the second finger of their right hand. Repair all. In the next moment, the white, viscous liquid began to flow rapidly from the bottom, covering his face and nostrils. He initially held his breath, but soon realized that the white, viscous liquid didn't interfere with his breathing at all. 1 minute later, the white, viscous liquid quickly receded, and Chen Ming climbed out of the medical bay. He walked to a full-length mirror nearby and examined himself, his eyes filled with disbelief. The person in the mirror. Was he really that handsome? He rarely used the word handsome to describe himself. He always believed that for men, appearance wasn't a high-priority compliment. But this time, he truly felt handsome. The person in the mirror had a completely different aura and energy compared to before. He had never felt so light and comfortable in his body. This feeling. It was like a factory reset. He looked at his right hand and noticed that even the hangnail had been completely repaired. He glanced down and saw that nothing had grown larger. It seemed the medical bay could only repair and not alter the original body. But that was fine. He was already more than sufficient. Any larger, and he'd have clearance issues in tunnels. The 43,000 units of iron ore were well spent. After putting on his set of high-precision clothes, he now felt like he could easily live another 100 years. If he continued using the medical bay, he might even live to 300 or 400. After all, human death was largely caused by the irreversible decay of organs. But now, that irreversible had become reversible. Not bad. Chen Ming, quite satisfied, took another look at himself in the mirror before heading back to the train cabin. He decided not to make this component available to the residents for now. It was too expensive, and the train couldn't afford it at the moment. The simple first aid kit would suffice. Thus, all craftable components for the level 3 train had been completed, except for the storage box. He didn't need it for now, as there were already 100 level 10 refrigerators on the train, providing more than enough storage. In carriage 5, the advanced talent carriage, Ji-Chuku sat in her seat, looking out at the bustling scene outside. Train conductor Zhu and others were at the entrance of carriage 4, the advanced talent carriage, busy moving bread slices to distribute as the residents' food for the day. Lord Ming hadn't sought her out in a long time. The minor celebrities who used to chat with her for company didn't have the authority to enter this carriage, leaving her with no one to talk to. Ji-Chuku's expression gradually grew distant as her thoughts wandered. The train had arrived at the shape lane, and she wondered if Lord Ming still remembered what she had told him. That her best friend Yang Yao was hiding in a safe house in a villa in Sand River City. Her position on the train was limited by her circumstances. Thanks to Lord Ming's current fondness for her, she didn't have to sell herself like the minor celebrities. But how long would this favor last? She knew men better than she knew herself. She made a living off this. Once the novelty wore off, it was easy for them to grow bored. The only way to secure her position on the train was Yang Yao. Her best friend was slightly more beautiful than her, still a virgin, and a celebrity with high capital. Even if Yan Yao couldn't rise to the top, Lord Mang would undoubtedly favor her more. Then, she could use Yan Yao to secure her own position on the train. Moreover, Yan Yao didn't know anything. Someone would have to teach her, and no one was more suitable than Jichaku herself. After a long while, she snapped out of her thoughts. She looked down at a tube of lipstick in her hand. In the apocalypse, cosmetics were rare and precious. She had just bought this lipstick with stellar coupons at the store. She didn't know when Lord Mang would seek her out or when he would pass by this carriage. All she could do was maintain a perfect appearance so that the moment Lord Mang saw her, her beauty could provide him with some emotional value. That was enough. Outside the Stellar's train cabin, Lao, panting heavily, let out a long breath before wiping the sweat from his forehead. He leaned against the train and looked at Biaozi, who had came to fetch water. He pulled out a cigarette, stuck it in his mouth, and continued to breathe heavily. Working hard, Biaozi? Saving up for a train token? Hey, Biaozi. How about naming it Biaozi when you get it? I'll be your deputy conductor. I think following you has more potential. Chapter 114, Coffee only tastes authentic when you buy it yourself. Stop teasing me, train conductor Zhu, Biaozi said with a helpless shake of his head, forcing a bitter smile. He picked up a bottle of mineral water, downed it in one go, then wiped the water from the corner of his mouth. Neither of us is cut out to buy the train token. We both know what we're like. We can't hold on to that kind of position. Besides, he continued, haven't you played online games before? Joining a big guild in a game is far more rewarding than starting your own small one. Anyway, I'm done chatting with you. I've got to get back to patrol duty. With that, Biaozi grabbed some food for the guards, exchanged a few words with Lao, and left. The train's current welfare system wasn't bad, but all the benefits were contingent on the residents working diligently. If you did well, you'd be rewarded. But if you tried to slack off and couldn't even dig up the basic 10 units of iron ore in a day, then sorry. The train had more than just bread to offer. There were also batons. The former would fill you up, while the latter would clean you out. Mining in the cavern was relatively safe. His main task during patrols was to prevent any accidents, like fights or disturbances, while also keeping an eye on things to ensure everyone was working. 3 days later, as the whistle blew, many residents stopped their work. Under the guard's supervision, they began to line up in an orderly fashion to collect their daily rations. Based on how much they'd mined beyond the daily quota, they were also issued stellar coupons. All right, Uncle Lee, sitting on a stool, looked at the number on the collar of the resident in front of him. Resident 117, you've exceeded the quota by 7 units of iron ore over the past few days. With today's 3 units, that makes a total of 10 units. Here's your stellar coupon. Thank you, thank you. The resident with the number 117 on his collar gratefully and excitedly accepted the stellar coupon, which was made from a mineral water bottle cap. He quickly left, making room for the next person in line. Stellar coupons were made from mineral water bottle caps. The caps were placed on the ground, and after the train ran over them, they were flattened into thin discs. A simple but effective anti-counterfeiting measure. No pickaxe or other tool could compress a bottle cap to that degree. And as for making a bigger scene? With so many eyes around, anyone capable of pulling that off would already be considered a top-tier talent. For now, this method was sufficient given the train's current limitations. Over the past few days, Uncle Lee had assigned numbers to all the residents, including the middle management. This system made it easier to calculate daily mining quotas and distribute stellar coupons, saving a bit of time. The man who received the stellar coupon carefully tucked it into his pocket, zipped it up, and wolfed down his food. Without a moment's rest, he grabbed his pickaxe and headed back to the iron ore to continue mining. It was the end of the workday, and most people were done for the day, heading back to sleep. But he wanted to keep working. The iron ore he mined now could be turned in along with tomorrow's haul, allowing him to earn more stellar coupons. After all, mining opportunities weren't available every day, so he had to make the most of it while he could. Still, he couldn't help but glance enviously at the group of tireless goblins nearby. Their stamina seemed limitless. And, according to the train's old-timers, those goblins had no intelligence. They were like robots. Only one goblin, named Doba, had any semblance of wisdom. The entire group followed Doba's orders, and they mined faster than anyone else, accumulating stellar coupons at an impressive rate. All the coupons went to Doba, who was like a slave master. It wouldn't be long before Doba saved up 1,000 stellar coupons. Hee. Doba, completely unfazed by exhaustion, leaned on his pickaxe and looked at the humans nearby with a gleam of satisfaction in his eyes. He had already saved over 200 stellar coupons, and all the goblins' coupons were in his possession. Even train conductor Zhu couldn't turn coupons as fast as he could. His goal? That refrigerator. The first step in rebuilding the goblin civilization was to secure their own territory. He wanted to buy as many refrigerators as possible to give his people ample living space. Even though his fellow goblins had lost their intelligence, he believed they would eventually regain it. If he could recover, so could they. And this human prophet was truly remarkable. The stellar train was developing much faster than his old goblin train. The human prophet hadn't lied. He really could help rebuild the goblin civilization. All Doba had to do was keep mining diligently to accelerate the train's progress. Get to work. Doba shouted. Let those foolish humans see what it means to be a tireless and great goblin. Full of energy, Doba swung his pickaxe and resumed mining. By now, most people had already collected their food. Nearly half of the residents chose to continue mining. What if they ran out of energy? They could buy cola. The ice-cold cola not only tasted great but also significantly boosted their stamina. It was incredibly cheap too. 10 bottles for just 1 stellar coupon. And they didn't have to take all 10 bottles at once, the shopkeeper would keep track of their remaining stock. Lord Meng is such a good man, a young man said after chugging a bottle of cola. He let out a satisfied burp, feeling his body recharged. Taking a deep breath, he grabbed his pickaxe and, under the glow of the train's headlights, began working through the night. He had done the math. Drinking 3 bottles of cola a day would allow him to extend his mining time to 18 hours, leaving just 6 hours for sleep. And he'd still feel fresh because the cola was so effective at restoring energy. Over 3 days, he'd only spend 1 stellar coupon on cola, but by exceeding the mining quota, he'd earn 3 stellar coupons. A net gain of 2 coupons. It was a great deal. At first, he hadn't told anyone about this strategy. But soon, he noticed more and more people catching on and copying him. It was frustrating. Didn't they have minds of their own? Inside the train's living quarters, Chen Meng, who had been trying to sleep, sighed deeply as the constant clinking of pickaxes outside kept him awake. He stood by the window, looking out at the people working, his expression complicated. He really wanted to say, take a break, guys. Rome wasn't built in a day. Don't work yourselves to death. Where would I find more survivors? In recent days, the cola production line accessory had been running non-stop. The production cost was 1 unit of iron ore per bottle, but in the store, it was sold at 1 stellar coupon for 10 bottles. Level 5 supermodel effect of the cola production line, can produce sugar-free or regular cola. Level 10 supermodel effect of the cola production line, slowly restores stamina when consumed. This was the only food item on the train that could restore stamina. Back in the Doomsday Abyss, every slave was given a bottle daily to keep their energy up. Once it was put on the store shelves, it was immediately snapped up. Many people now drank 3 bottles of cola a day and worked tirelessly with their pickaxes. Mining efficiency had skyrocketed. Normally, in 3 days, the residents would have mined around 360,000 units of iron ore. But now, they had managed to dig up 510,000 units. Almost all of them working overtime voluntarily. Some worked a few extra hours, while others slept only a few hours a day. The 2 level 2 iron ore mines had a total of 520,000 units. In just 3 days, they had almost exhausted them, leaving only 10,000 units. At this rate, the mines would be empty before dawn tomorrow. These people. Chen Meng sighed in exasperation. When he used to give everyone free cola, they didn't work nearly as hard. But now that they had to buy it themselves, they were going all out. The reform seemed to be working, at least initially. It reminded him of the white-collar workers in his previous world who insisted on buying their own coffee. The coffee only tasted authentic when you bought it yourself. The free stuff from the company always felt a bit off, like it wasn't the real deal. The train's current stockpile of iron ore had reached 650,000 units. Well, he wasn't going to sleep anyway. Chen Meng turned his attention to the 3D diagram of the ground burst missile on the control panel. This was the most powerful weapon on the train, and the only large-scale red-tier firepower accessory. Upgrading it required iron ore, while crafting it consumed copper ore. Crafting a level 1 ground burst missile required 10,000 units of copper ore, and upgrading it to level 1 cost 50,000 units of iron ore. He had calculated that upgrading it to level 5 would cost 750,000 units of iron ore, which he didn't have yet. For now, he'd focus on finding new mines. Iron ore was in short supply. The missile currently in missile car number 14 was only level 1. It was mostly for show, as its low level made it ineffective against most monsters. He planned to set it off like a firework tomorrow morning to see how it performed. Late at night. Most people on the train were asleep, and even Doba was feeling the strain and ready to call it a day. But when he saw the 7 or 8 humans still mining, he couldn't help but feel a sense of bewilderment. Were these people turned into goblins by the train? How could they mine even more than his kind? Did they think they wouldn't live to see tomorrow? Finally, morning arrived. The stellar train set off once again, emerging from underground and switching to its windfire wheels as it sped toward the unknown, searching for new mines. While efficiency had improved, Chen Meng was struggling to keep up. Where would he find so much iron ore? The train gradually slowed to a stop on a plain. Under the urging and shouting of Lao and others, all the residents were herded off the train. They stood around, looking confused. Where was the mine? They didn't see any. Even the 400 survivors were pushed off the train and made to stand with the others. These survivors hadn't been working, they were only given the bare minimum of a few slices of bread and a bottle of water each day. They had been left to watch enviously as the stellar train residents enjoyed better rations. Chen Ming wanted them to feel the urgency to join the stellar train as official residents. Only then would they work hard. Just then. Under everyone's gaze, the mechanical hatch on the top of the last carriage, missile car number 14, slowly opened with the sound of grinding gears. A pitch-black missile, exuding an intimidating aura, was slowly raised on a platform, angled 45 degrees toward the sky. At the sight of this, everyone's breath caught in their throats. Their eyes were filled with awe. A missile? The stellar train had missiles now? Even the 400 new survivors were stunned. No wonder their old train had been destroyed. How could anyone stand against a train with missiles? The next moment, the ground-burst missile rested on its launch pad. The hydraulic system emitted a metallic hum, like a beast sharpening its claws. The train's external sound system then played the cold, mechanical voice of the train auxiliary I. 10. 9. 1. When the countdown reached 0, the air within a 10-mile radius seemed to solidify. Thick white fog, like the breath of a giant beast, enveloped the entire train. The train trembled slightly from the force as flames instantly dyed the fog red. A missile shot out of the flames with a deafening sonic boom, trailing an orange tail as it arced into the sky. Seconds later. Boom. On the distant plain, a blinding white light erupted from the ground like a volcanic explosion. The deafening blast followed, resonating deep in everyone's bones, as if 1,000 bronze bells were ringing inside them. A mushroom-shaped cloud of ash slowly rose into the sky. All the train residents who had disembarked watched the scene in stunned silence, their jaws hanging open in disbelief. The echoes of the explosion still lingered in their ears. After what felt like an eternity, the first cheer broke out. Soon, all the residents joined in, roaring with excitement and pride. The launch of this missile sent a clear message to everyone: the stellar train is strong enough. As long as they stayed on the stellar train, it would protect them to the greatest extent possible. This test launch had boosted the residents' confidence in the train and filled them with a sense of pride. In the apocalypse, could any other train match the power of theirs? In recent days, some residents hadn't been working as hard, mainly because they had been passed around so many trains. They had witnessed too many trains fall. What was the point of earning more stellar coupons if the train was just going to be destroyed? It would all be for nothing. But now, no one thought that way anymore. Everyone firmly believed that the stellar train would continue to grow, becoming a Noah's Ark in the apocalypse, carrying them through this hopeless, despair-filled world to find a sanctuary. Chapter 115. It's like the promised land granted to me by heaven. So wonderful. Near the stellar train, a middle-aged woman standing among the crowd couldn't help but tear up as she watched the scene unfold. She had been working hard every day to mine enough to earn stellar coupons to buy a refrigerator and have a place she could call her own on the stellar train. It wasn't that she was obsessed with having a private space. But ever since the apocalypse began, her husband had died right before her eyes, her child had also passed away, and she had lost contact with her parents. She had nowhere to go, no idea where she should go, or where she could go. Even if she survived until tomorrow, what would she do then? There was nothing. The connections a person has with the world are their friends, family, and loved ones. When all of that is gone, it suddenly feels like the world is rejecting you, that there's no place for you. In peaceful times, there are many ways to alleviate this feeling, but in the apocalypse, it is magnified infinitely. Even if you survive a few more days, how many more can you survive in this apocalyptic environment? In reality, many people shared her thoughts. Everyone was extremely pessimistic and hopeless about the future. Each day, even while mining, everyone's faces were filled with numbness. But at the moment the missile exploded, her eyes uncontrollably welled up with tears. It felt as if humanity had regained a glimmer of hope, that the future wasn't entirely bleak. One day, the stellar train would carry them all toward a brighter future. At this moment, the train bore the hopes of all its residents. The first glimmer of hope born in the apocalypse. She might truly be able to build her own home on the stellar train, to once again have a family, and the stellar train would indeed continue to protect them. Inside the train's cabin, Chen Ming sat on a chair, admiring the distant explosion of the missile with a satisfied expression. It was the largest firework he had ever set off in his 2 lifetimes. Fireworks, after all, look better when they're bigger. But at that moment, the control panel screen suddenly began flashing red frantically. A long strip of text framed in gold swiftly scrolled across the top of the screen, accompanied by bursts of fireworks on all sides. Simultaneously, a voice echoed in the ears of all train conductors on the Shaplane. Shaplane area broadcast. Congratulations to the stellar train for becoming the first mechanical train on the Shaplane to complete the hidden mission vehicle of hope. Huh? Chenming stared at the text, slightly confused. What had he done? Immediately after, several lines of text flashed across the panel. Successfully completed the hidden mission vehicle of hope, inheritance value plus 100, reputation points plus 20. After reading the description of the hidden mission, he finally understood what had happened. To complete this mission, more than 500 survivors needed to place a feeling called hope in the train itself. These survivors believed that this train would lead them toward hope. Completing this mission rewarded 100 inheritance value, while the 20 reputation points came from the area broadcast. Each green area broadcast would always grant 20 reputation points. This was an unexpected delight. Chenming let out a long breath, leaned back in his chair, and looked out the window at the crowd. His initial idea had been simple. Just to set off a firework for fun. After all, a level 1 missile wasn't good for much else besides being a firework. He also wanted to show off the train's strength to everyone on board. Unexpectedly, he had accidentally completed this hidden mission. Not bad. Chenming then glanced at the Shaplane reputation points leaderboard. On the leaderboard, he ranked 6th with 50 reputation points. So far, there were only 2 ways to earn reputation points. One was through area broadcasts. The other was by achieving a high enough rank in the combat training virtual space, which would grant a certain amount of reputation points. He didn't yet know what reputation points were for, but he was sure they weren't useless. His inheritance value had finally increased from 0 to 100. The main reason was that the Doomsday marriage certificate hadn't been used, or else his inheritance value could have reached 200. Based on the information he had gathered, higher inheritance value could lead to more fortuitous encounters. For example, some special encounter maps might have certain requirements for inheritance value and reputation points. Time to continue searching for iron ore. After all the residents returned to the carriages, the stellar train gradually picked up speed and raced across the wasteland. As for the missile, aside from causing some damage to the terrain, it hadn't killed a single monster. 20 minutes later, the resource detection radar suddenly began beeping frantically. A glimmer of anticipation flashed in Chenming's eyes as he quickly turned to the radar screen. The screen showed 3 level 2 iron ore mines clustered together on the ground about 10,000 meters away, with 2 level 2 copper mines nearby. Wow! This was definitely a high-level resource zone. Such a dense cluster of mines, and on the ground no less. How could it have remained unoccupied? But when he saw the 2 level 5 monsters and a group of level 4 monsters on the targeting radar, he realized what was going on. Was it because of these monsters? Even if a level 4 train couldn't handle these monsters, a level 5 or level 6 train could easily deal with them. There was no reason for level 5 or 6 trains to overlook such a rich cluster of high-level resource mines. Let's check it out. Without hesitation, he immediately changed course and raced toward the red dot on the resource detection radar. A few minutes later. So that's it. Chenming narrowed his eyes as he gazed at the dark swamp before him. He finally understood why no one had claimed this resource zone. The high-level resource mines were right in the middle of the swamp, and the control panel screen displayed that the swamp had an extremely corrosive effect on energy shields and armor. The lower the level, the faster the corrosion. And the monsters lived in this swamp. As the targeting radar continued to alert him, a dozen red dots began rushing toward the stellar train, which was parked at the edge of the swamp. Foul swamp. The toxins and swamp have a strong corrosive effect on trains. The lower the level, the faster the corrosion. Additionally, this area prohibits flight and tunneling. This wasn't a special encounter map, but rather a high-level resource zone with harsh extraction conditions. But while others couldn't go, he could. The level 5 supermodel effect of his carriage's steel armor granted immunity to corrosion from liquids, mist, and swamps, allowing him to pass through safely. The windfire wheel couldn't traverse this area. Special wheels like treads were required. But he had spider legs, which could also get him through. Although the spider legs didn't have corrosion resistance. Their level was high. Level 13. So the corrosion was extremely slow. Even the corroded parts could be quickly repaired by the mechanical nanite spider. Promised land. Chenming glanced at the information on the control panel, then looked at the red dots rapidly approaching the train on the targeting radar, and suddenly smiled. It's like the promised land granted to me by heaven. This land was meant to be his, and only his. The next moment. Roar. With a ferocious roar, a dozen crocodiles burst out of the swamp, charging toward the stellar train with terrifying momentum. Carriage number 12 was already prepared. 8 repeating ballistas were pushed out by the lift platform. Locked on by the train auxiliary eye. Several long bolts shot out, with a near-perfect 96% hit rate. In an instant, 3 level 3 crocodiles hit and the eyes fell to the ground, while the remaining crocodiles, with bolts embedded in their bodies, gritted their teeth and charged toward the train. The fastest level 4 crocodile reached the train first, roaring as it leaped into the air and slammed its claw down. Boom. With a loud crash, the claw broke. Another claw, and the other one broke too. Another bite, and all its teeth were gone. The unarmed crocodile looked at its shattered teeth on the ground, then at the unscathed armor in front of it. A hint of confusion flashed in its eyes as it instinctively turned to look at the 2 level 5 crocodiles behind it. But then, the next moment. Screech. Car blades covered in flowing electricity extended from both sides of the carriage and began spinning rapidly. Almost instantly, they sliced the nearby level 4 crocodiles in half, while the others fled, injured. Rat-tat-tat. The 4 makeshift heavy machine guns on the carriage locked onto the 2 fleeing level 5 crocodiles and the rest. With the sound of heavy, piercing gunfire, a storm of metal engulfed them. The battle lasted only a few seconds. Like a steel dragon perched at the edge of the swamp, the stellar train remained as steady as a tiger. In the blink of an eye, the swamp's local tyrants were wiped out. The powerful magnet installed on the train's head emitted a flash of white light, and all the dropped items were sucked into the train. What a bunch of useless trash. Chen Meng looked out the window at the pile of monster corpses and sighed with emotion. After 3 days apart, one should look at a person with new eyes. It's been so many days, and you still think I'm the little brat who went to the Kunlun Mountains back then? Level 6 armor. Even if he didn't take any offensive measures and just slept here tonight, these monsters wouldn't be able to do anything to him. They couldn't even scratch his defense. Firepower components of the same quality also varied in power. For example, the car blade was far more powerful than the repeating ballista. After all, the latter was a long-range attack and had its flaws. It was already an extremely rare white component capable of long-range attacks, so its power naturally couldn't be too high. Unlike the car blade, which had just performed impressively. At high speed, even level 4 monsters had to steer clear. This was the benefit of upgrading armor. Back when he went to the Kunlun Mountains area, his car blade was level 10, but he had to run at the sight of a monster. The main reason was that his armor level was too low. By the time his car blade could harm a monster, his train would have already been smashed in half. Only with sufficient defense could one attack freely. Moreover, the supermodel effect of the heavy machine gun bullet production line had 2 effects. The bullets produced had splitting and armor-piercing capabilities, with no change in price. A level 5 bullet cost 50 units of copper ore. He had just fired over 400 bullets, which amounted to 20,000 units of copper ore. A negligible amount compared to the train's internal copper reserves. But the power was truly impressive. Each bullet split into 3 in midair, and each split bullet had armor-piercing effects. Almost instantly, they shattered the scales of the level 5 crocodiles, penetrating their bodies. Both were level 5. But these 2 level 5 crocodiles, under his level 5 bullets, melted like snow, completely outmatched. Awesome. Chen Meng, satisfied, switched to the spider legs and pushed the control lever, aiming straight for the depths of the swamp. Did they really think his earlier threat to slaughter the Kunlun Mountains was just talk? What had he been building up for all this time, if not to avoid running away in fear when facing monsters? Beep beep. An alarm sounded inside the carriage. Detected external toxic gas infiltrating the train's interior. Central air conditioning's fresh air intake shutting down. Oxygen generator activating. In an instant. Under the control of the train auxiliary eye, several components inside the train began operating in unison, preventing the external toxic gas from entering. The rapidly running oxygen generator also ensured the train had enough oxygen. Not bad. The level 10 supermodel effect of the central air conditioning was quite useful, especially now. He was starting to vaguely sense some of the underlying logic of this world. If bitten by a 7-step snake, the antidote must be found within 7 steps. In the foul swamp, there was a dense cluster of high-level resource mines, but one needed to upgrade the central air conditioning to level 10, the armor to level 5, and have special wheels to enter. And conveniently, the Kunlun Mountains area was nearby. After finding a way to obtain enough Murphy stones, one could enter the swamp, and the high-level resource mines inside would be the reward. That was probably the logic. Except he had transcended the 5 elements. A few minutes later, the train had successfully reached the center of the swamp. Before them was a barren patch of land, surrounded by the swamp on all sides. In this area, there was no toxic mist. The control panel showed that the air quality was normal. The toxic mist couldn't reach this place. And on this land, 3 level 2 iron ore mines and 2 level 2 copper ore mines lay quietly, like shy brides with red veils, waiting for him to lift the covers. So wonderful. Chenming jumped off the train and looked at the scene before him, smiling with satisfaction. The sun had just risen. There was no better time to work than the early morning. Good luck truly favors those who work hard. After taking a deep breath, he grabbed the walkie-talkie and shouted, "Let's get to work." The next moment, several carriage doors were flung open from the inside, and countless train residents, carrying pickaxes, jumped out of the train, rushing toward the mines with excitement and enthusiasm. "Stupid humans, stop crowding me." Doba, who had just jumped out of the carriage and hadn't had time to move, was shoved aside by the swarm of train residents pouring out. He couldn't help but angrily curse. "Stupid humans, what are you trying to do?" Chapter 116, Train Stunts. That kind of scolding doesn't feel satisfying. A young man, who had also jumped off the train, tightened his belt and carried a pickaxe, leaning to the side to look down at Doba with a grin. "Scolding someone like a woman, what era are we in where people still call humans foolish? It's like you're flirting, not even causing a scratch. Come, learn from me. A bunch of idiots, get the hell out of my way." Doba, his face filled with anger, was about to continue cursing when he heard the man's words. A flash of hesitation appeared in his eyes, and he tentatively muttered, "A bunch. A bunch of idiots, get out? How was that? It seems. It does feel more aggressive." Then Doba took a deep breath, raised his pickaxe high, and roared with anger, "A bunch of idiots, get the hell out of the way of the great goblins." With that, he forcefully pushed through the crowd, leading a group of green goblins, parting the sea of people like Moses, shouting and clearing a path. Soon, everyone was in place, and the clanging sounds of mining once again echoed through the center of the swamp. Previously, all the slaves had to hand in their pickaxes daily, partly to prevent them from being used as lethal weapons during riots, and partly because pickaxes could easily cause fatalities during fights among slaves. But after transitioning from slaves to residents, the habit of handing in pickaxes gradually disappeared. Mainly because everyone's mining time varied, making it difficult to collect the pickaxes uniformly. Additionally, most residents had developed a sense of loyalty to the stellar train, reducing the likelihood of riots. Even those who considered rioting would think twice upon seeing the 10 machine guns inside the train, aimed inward. "Keep it up, kids." Chenming sat inside the train, watching the enthusiastic residents outside, feeling a bit tempted to join them with a pickaxe. Then he turned his attention to the components that could be crafted after the train reached level 4. He had been saving iron ore these days, leaving many level 4 train components unbuilt. There were 5 craftable components, 3 yellow, 1 blue, and 1 white. These 5 components were essential for upgrading the train to level 5. As the train's level increased, the number of craftable components decreased, from 17 initially to just 5 now. Hell-Gatling Gun, blue-grade component, requires 3,000 units of iron ore to craft. Energy Shield, yellow-grade component, requires 1,000 units of iron ore to craft. Train Ticket, white-grade component, requires 100 units of iron ore to craft. Stunt Console, yellow-grade component, requires 1,000 units of iron ore to craft. Radar Blocker, yellow-grade component, requires 1,000 units of iron ore to craft. Among these 5 components, the ones that would significantly enhance the train's capabilities were the Energy Shield, Stunt Console, and Radar Blocker. Especially that ultimate move. After upgrading the train to level 4, a new button labeled Train Stunt appeared on the console. The Stunt Console, a yellow-grade component, had already been crafted within the past 3 days, though it was still at level 1 and hadn't been upgraded further. A level 1 Stunt Console has 1 slot for a stunt, and as it levels up, it can hold more slots. In the top left corner of the console, there was a triangular slot that looked like a hollow desktop speaker. This was the Stunt Console. If the train has B-grade potential, after crafting the Stunt Console, you get 1 random train stunt. If it's A-grade, you can choose from 2. If it's S-grade, you can choose from 3. His mechanical train had S-grade potential, but he hadn't decided which one to choose yet. Since there was no time limit for this choice, he had put it off, planning to decide later. Chenming swiped lightly on the console screen, quickly bringing up the panel. The stellar train is an S-grade potential mechanical train, so you can choose one of the following 3 train stunts. Train stunts are special skills that only the train conductor can use, affecting the entire train. The maximum number of stunts depends on the level of the stunt console. 1. Infinite bullets. For 10 minutes, any bullet-consuming firepower components on your train, such as heavy machine guns and automatic cannons, will have infinite bullets, However, you must replenish the consumed bullets with the corresponding amount of copper ore within 30 days. 2. Doomsday Sprint. For 10 minutes, your train's maximum speed will double, and during this time, any component on your train will continue to function normally even if its durability drops to 0%. 3. Death Spin. When your train is traveling at high speed and has a drill bit component, activating this stunt will cause the train to briefly hover in the air and spin rapidly, colliding with enemies and unleashing deadly force. The higher the drill bit's level, the greater the damage. It is recommended to upgrade the internal space stabilizer to at least level 5. These days, he would occasionally check the train radio, which was always the fastest way to gather information when entering a new area. Through the conversations, he learned about the existence of train stunts. These were only available to level 4 trains. They could be obtained by clearing fortuitous encounter maps or defeating rare bosses, in the form of triangular tokens. Once inserted into the stunt console, the train could use the stunt attached to the token. However, once inserted, it could not be removed. Forcing it out would cause it to shatter, rendering it unusable. The stunt console could be upgraded to level 5. This meant that each train conductor could have a maximum of 5 train stunts. However, this limitation wasn't very useful, as most train conductors on the shape lane didn't even have one train stunt. Although it was said that clearing fortuitous encounter maps and defeating rare bosses had a chance of dropping them, no one had obtained one this way so far. Many speculated that such items might not exist in this region. This was normal. Monsters like the pangolin weren't found in every green zone, and without the monster, you couldn't obtain components like the drill bit. The shape lane was connected to the Kunlun Mountains region, but not every green zone was connected to the Kunlun Mountains. Train stunts had no grades and couldn't be upgraded. They were like special items. Chen Meng frowned as he looked at the 3 options on the screen. He was quite interested in all 3 train stunts, but the one that suited him best was definitely the third one, Death Spin. The higher the drill bit's level, the greater the damage it could unleash. He had been waiting these days, hoping to find a way to select all 3. But he hadn't come up with a good solution, so now, there was only one last resort. Chen Ming took a deep breath, then reached out and tapped the third option on the screen. At the same time, he quickly tried to tap the other 2 options as well, but it seemed he failed. He looked at the triangular token that slowly appeared on the console, engraved with the words Death Spin. At the same time, PFFT. A faint chuckle came from the corner of the train room. Chen Meng turned his head expressionlessly to look at the robot standing nearby. Did you just laugh? No. The train room soon echoed with the cold, emotionless mechanical voice of the Eye. If you laugh again, I'll smash this robot, understand? As soon as he finished speaking, the robot immediately clasped its hands behind its back, anxiously murmuring, I'm sorry, train conductor. Chen Meng turned his gaze away from the robot. Ever since they got this robot, the Eye seemed to have found a new toy, often controlling the robot to wander around, even attempting to mine. Though it ended in failure. Like a child who had found a beloved toy. However, although the Eye usually pretended to be emotionless, Chen Ming knew better than anyone how intelligent it could be. The higher the train auxiliary Eye was upgraded, the smarter it became. While it usually acted convincingly, it would occasionally slip up when teased. Like now. The Eye really cherished its robot. He had even seen it standing by the clothing customization production line for a long time, perhaps wanting to create a set of clothes for itself. It was quite amusing. In the train, Lao and Biaozi were too reserved around him, while Jichaku just wanted to pull his pants off. He didn't have anyone to talk to normally, so Zhao filled that gap. Teasing Zhao a bit when he had nothing to do was quite enjoyable. People always need someone to talk to. Go make yourself a set of clothes. Chen Ming said casually as he inserted the triangular token into the acrobatic console, not even glancing up. Really? The train soon echoed with the robot's excited voice, which, though heavily mechanized through the robot's external sound system, still carried a strong human emotion. Really, train conductor? Yes, go ahead. Chen Ming waved his hand impatiently. You've been hanging around there these past few days, practically screaming that you want clothes. Just go already. Train conductor, you're so kind. I won't make high-precision clothes, just a regular set will do. Wait. Chen Mei called out to the robot, which was already about to run out of the train room, frowning. What's your gender? You're not female, are you? Gender? The robot shook its head. Zhao has no gender, but if I had one, it would be male. Why? Because I'd also like to put that thing in Jichaku's mouth, if I had one. Chen Ming took a deep breath, then walked over to the robot, angrily slapping its head repeatedly while shouting, From now on, when I'm with women, you better keep your eyes shut, understand? Now, get the hell out to carriage 2. And stop thinking about that thing, you'll never have it in this lifetime. Can't you, as an eye, think about something more productive? Oh, okay, train conductor. After shooing Zhao away, Chen Ming sighed heavily and plopped back into his chair, resting his legs on the console, not bothering with Zhao anymore. Just then. Beep beep beep. The targeting radar began to alert again, showing that a drone from another train was rapidly approaching the stellar train. A line of text quickly appeared on the console screen. Enemy locked, ready to fire. This was information processed by the eye. With a level 10 eye's computing power, it could handle multiple tasks simultaneously. No need. Chen Meng suddenly narrowed his eyes and shook his head. He had just obtained the death spin train stunt and hadn't tested it yet, so this was a good opportunity. When the drone was a few hundred meters away, he suddenly pushed the control lever, and the train accelerated rapidly into the swamp. The speed kept increasing. Just before impact, he quickly pressed the triangular button for death spin on the acrobatic console. In the next moment, all the spider leg components suddenly bent and then extended like springs, launching the train into the air where it began to spin rapidly. The drill bit at the front of the train also started spinning at high speed. Boom. The entire stellar train, accompanied by a deafening sonic boom, spun rapidly and crashed straight into the low-flying drone. Crack! The sound of the drone shattering was barely audible outside the train. When the stellar train landed heavily in the swamp, Chen Ming shook his slightly dazed head and pushed the control lever, continuing toward the center of the swamp. He didn't care who had sent the drone. It didn't matter. He was right here, and if anyone had any ideas, they could come find him. He had just acquired a new method, and there was no reason not to try it out. Even with a level 10 internal space stabilizer, his head still felt a bit dizzy. The experience just now was. The train was spinning rapidly, but the interior of the train room remained relatively stable. It was like sitting on a rapidly swinging seesaw. His head wasn't upside down, and the maximum tilt was only about 30 degrees, but the rapid shaking left him feeling a bit dizzy. Not bad. Chen Ming sat in the train room, pursing his lips. It was a decent train stunt, especially useful against larger monsters. Against larger monsters, bullets from a heavy machine gun or a repeating ballista wouldn't be very effective, so you'd need to rely on larger firepower components. But now, with this train stunt, he could try it out when facing larger monsters. Without a doubt. It would be more effective than heavy machine gun bullets. Chapter 117, It's just spinning, no need to make a fuss. Wait a minute. A sudden flash of inspiration struck Chen Ming's mind. What if he activated the car blade while initiating the train stunt death spin? Wouldn't that significantly amplify the power? The entire train would become like a massive, high-speed rotating crossbow bolt, charging straight at the monster. A level 10 car blade, a level 10 drill bit, and level 6 armor. Combining these, the drill bit and car blade would achieve a synergy where 1 + 1 equals more than 2. Indeed, spinning seems to enhance the destructive power. Theoretically feasible. Chen Ming nodded, though he wasn't sure about the practical effects. He'd have to wait for an opportunity to test it on a larger monster. Just then, he noticed the group of residents frozen in place in the open area, their bodies stiff. He frowned slightly. What's going on? Poisoned? After who knows how long, Lao was jolted awake by the cigarette burning his fingers. He quickly tossed it to the ground and stuck his fingers in his mouth to cool them down, his eyes still filled with shock as he muttered, "Biaozi. Did you see? Did the stellar train just spin? I saw it." Biaozi took a deep breath, his throat sore from keeping his mouth open for so long. He swallowed several times before rubbing his throat and hoarsely replying, "It spun. I'm a bit dumbfounded. How do I put it? I've been a train conductor before, but in my experience, trains aren't supposed to spin. This is beyond my understanding. Could it be a special feature of a level 4 train?" Lao looked dazedly at the stellar train, which was now quietly parked on the wasteland, as if it had never moved. If he hadn't clearly remembered the scene just moments ago, he would have thought it was an illusion. "I don't know." Biaozi shook his head. "The highest I've been is a level 2 train conductor, and it didn't last long before it was destroyed. How would I know what a level 4 train can do? But one thing I'm sure of. Even if it's a level 4 train, I doubt anyone else could do what Lord Meng just did." "What do you mean?" "If every train could do what Lord Meng did, then this resource zone wouldn't be exclusive to us. Others would have come long ago. That drone was probably sent by another train to see which train is mining here." "Makes sense." Lao then took a deep breath and shouted at the group of residents still frozen in place, "Stop gawking and get back to work. It's just spinning, no need to make a fuss. Get back to work, all of you. And you, the 400 newcomers, you're on level 3 resident benefits. If you slack off, you'll have no benefits left to lose. Those who can't have their benefits reduced will be sold to other trains. If that's what you want, go ahead. At his words, the residents immediately averted their eyes, suppressing their awe, and began working even harder. The more powerful the train, the better their lives would be protected. When they were slaves on other trains, their biggest concern wasn't food. After all, the train conductor wouldn't let them starve, though they didn't get much to eat when they weren't mining. Their biggest fear was the train's destruction. If the train was destroyed, they might be lucky enough to be accepted by another train and continue as slaves. If unlucky, they'd end up as food for the beasts. The power the stellar train had just displayed filled them with immense reassurance. Who wouldn't want to be on an extremely safe train in the apocalypse, especially one with such good benefits? Especially the 400 newcomers to the stellar train. They were now frantically swinging their pickaxes to mine iron ore, terrified that if they slowed down, they'd be sold by the stellar train. After witnessing the treatment of slaves. No, residents. On the stellar train, they weren't slaves here, but residents. They realized just how miserable their past lives had been. To think that in the same apocalypse, as fellow slaves, you all lived so well. Here, they could eat 20 slices of bread a day to feel full, and it was even the fancy kind with fillings. There was even a promotion system. The more you mined, the better your benefits, and you could even have your own room, buy cigarettes, meat, and many things they'd never dared dream of as slaves. This wasn't the apocalypse anymore. This was paradise. The 400 newcomers had no thoughts of causing trouble, they just wanted to mine as fast as possible to rise to level 1 resident benefits and earn extra stellar coupons daily. If they were sold to another train, they'd suffer again. Well, 300 of them, to be precise. About 40 had chosen to sell their bodies. Though on previous trains, it was forced. On the stellar train, it was a voluntary choice. Public mindset still needs guidance. Lahu smiled contentedly as he watched the residents mining diligently. When mining, people don't just work in silence. It's boring, so they chat to pass the time. He had deliberately scattered the 400 newcomers among the crowd. As they chatted, they talked about how miserable their lives had been before and how good things were on the stellar train. This strengthened the original residents' sense of belonging and pride in the stellar train. It also boosted group cohesion. And with that, their work motivation improved. Benefits are relative. The stellar train's current benefits might not be number 1, but globally, they're definitely in the top 30%. As train levels increase, iron ore becomes less scarce, and feeding slaves becomes standard for every train, but their food isn't as good. Their bread has fillings, other trains' bread is just edible, not even comparable in taste. Not to mention, they have a clear promotion system and various things to exchange. Though these people already had a strong sense of belonging to the train, seeing the outside world made it even stronger. Huh? On the shape lane, inside a train, a middle-aged man sitting at the control panel stared at the suddenly interrupted feed on his screen, utterly bewildered. He instinctively looked up at the empty plane ahead. He had been driving his train across the plain, searching for ore. Suddenly, the targeting radar alerted him that there was a train ahead. He checked the screen. That train was mining in the swamp. The swamp's center had a massive deposit of high-level resources, something almost everyone on the shape lane knew about, given how dense the resources were. But no one had ever gone in. The swamp was highly corrosive to armor, and toxic gases could seep into the train, posing a significant threat to the lives inside. But he had just noticed that a train was mining inside it. At first, he thought it might be a flash train out for a stroll. A few flash trains on the shape lane had ventured into the swamp before. Flash trains have high corrosion resistance, but they don't need iron ore or similar resources. There was once a mechanical train that partnered with a flash train. The mechanical train sent all its slaves into the flash train, which then took them into the swamp to mine and brought the ore back. In return, the mechanical train offered a Murphy stone. A generous reward, indeed. After all, the flash train didn't need to provide anything. Just take the slaves in, stay for a few days, and leave. The flash train agreed readily. But not long after the slaves entered the flash train, the mechanical train's conductor received news that all the slaves he had sent out had died. Furious, he contacted the flash train, which explained that some of its components had malfunctioned and eaten the slaves. The mechanical train's conductor couldn't accept this and angrily demanded to know what components could malfunction so badly. The flash train's conductor, with a straight face, replied that flash train components do malfunction from time to time. Even he himself occasionally loses control. Keep pushing, and I might lose control and come after you. Soon, several other flash-trained conductors came forward to confirm that flash-trained components could indeed malfunction under stress. The matter was dropped, and the mechanical train gradually disappeared. Probably because the conductor mined himself to death. Since then, no one had been able to enter that area. Until today, when he encountered another train mining inside, and it wasn't a flesh train, because the number of red dots on the targeting radar was far too high. A flesh train couldn't have that many people. So he sent a drone to scout and confirmed that it was indeed a mechanical train mining there, with an unusually large number of slaves. At least 1,000, the most he'd ever seen on a mechanical train. Then, the man fell into a complicated silence. Next, he saw the train spin, destroying his drone with unstoppable force. Using a drone to spy was already a provocation, and he hadn't expected it to return. But was it necessary to use a train stunt? It was just a tiny drone. Didn't you have a heavy machine gun? A few bullets would have taken it out. This was like him not even using a basic attack, just taking a peek from afar, and the opponent sprinted, flashed in front of him, and unleashed their ultimate. Crazy. Train stunts aren't meant to be used so casually. Though he didn't know the name of the stunt that made the train spin, he was certain it was a train stunt. Only a train stunt could achieve such an unbelievable feat. On the shape lane, the ones with train stunts were mostly the flesh trains. So far, he hadn't heard of anyone obtaining a train stunt through a fortuitous encounter or boss drops. The only way was through train potential, and it had to be B tier or higher. On the shape lane, only 2 trains were B tier or above. One was the A tier potential world-weary train. He had seen that one, and the train in the swamp wasn't it. That left only the recent rising star, the S tier potential stellar train. The temper of the strong is always so fierce. The man sighed helplessly. Since he deduced it was the stellar train, he could somewhat understand the behavior. After all, it was S tier potential, being a bit hot-tempered was understandable. But it was so frustrating. He was only a C tier potential mechanical train, which meant he missed out on many benefits. The profession change quests for flesh trains and mechanical trains were incomparable. They weren't even in the same league. Even a B-tier mechanical train's profession change quest required a significant number of Murphy stones. Back when he was a level 3 train, where could he get Murphy stones? Fortunately, he gambled and won, eventually completing the C-tier profession change quest. The C-tier mechanical train profession change quest was: you must transfer the train conductor's authority to any member of the train. If they return the authority to you within 24 hours, the quest is complete. Just then, a vicious curse suddenly rang out inside the train. A man bound in chains in the corner of the control room, covered in wounds, glared at the middle-aged man at the control panel, his voice trembling with hatred as he cursed. You'll die a horrible death. Your children will be born without anuses. You'll die. You won't live to see tomorrow. I trusted you so much, handed you the conductor's authority, and this is how you repay me. Do you deserve my trust? Huh? Do you deserve it? Sorry, and then what? The middle-aged man at the control panel casually picked his ear. Back in the white zone, I was also a level 3 train conductor, but an accident turned me into a slave. Then I met you. I acted loyal, and you trusted me. I hid my past as a conductor, serving as your loyal second-in-command, wanting to develop the train further. When you chose the C-tier profession change quest, you naturally picked me. Now the train is thriving under my control. And I haven't killed you. Wasn't your wish always to develop the train to its fullest? So what does it matter who's the conductor? Right, Hueco. The train's eye soon responded with a cold, emotionless electronic voice. You are absolutely correct, my conductor. I will unconditionally execute any command you give. See? The middle-aged man at the control panel nodded in satisfaction, then crossed his legs and looked seriously at the chain man in the corner. I really think you shouldn't resent me. After all, I didn't kill you. You know, in the apocalypse, that's already a great mercy. I just want you to watch me, to see the train thrive under my control. So what? The man in the corner suddenly sneered. So you're planning to suck up to the stellar train, hoping for some scraps? Suck up? The middle-aged man took a full minute to light his cigar, then shook his head with a serious expression. No, no, no. I'm too stiff to kneel. I'll wait here. When he leaves the swamp, it'll be his end. His ore, his slaves, his resources, even his women. Will all be mine. I'll inherit everything he has and make the train even greater. Ha! The man in the corner, covered in wounds, let out a cold laugh, his eyes filled with malice as he stared at the middle-aged man. Then I curse you to die by his hand. I curse this train and us both to be blown to pieces. I curse the day he leaves the ruins to be your death day. I curse you to piss yourself in terror at the moment of your death. TSK. The man at the control panel casually crossed his legs, playing with his cigar, savoring its aroma with closed eyes. Then he opened them, a playful smile in his gaze. You're still so naive. If curses could kill, you'd have been invincible long ago.